The wind carried sand across the excavation site like tiny bullets, stinging Maya's face as she wiped sweat from her forehead. Her younger sister Ava crouched nearby, carefully brushing dirt from what looked like another pottery fragment. They had been digging in this remote corner of the Sahara Desert for 3 months, searching for evidence of an ancient civilization that most scholars believed never existed. Maya's metal detector suddenly screamed with an intensity she had never heard before. The device nearly jumped out of her hands as the needle swung wildly across the display. She looked at Ava, who had stopped her careful brushing to stare at the detector. "That's not normal," Ava said, pushing her dark hair back under her hat. "What kind of metal could make it react like that?" Maya moved the detector in a slow circle around their current dig site. The screaming grew louder as she walked toward a large sand dune about 50 meters away. With each step, the device became more frantic. When she reached the base of the dune, the detector was making such a loud noise that she had to turn it off. "Ava, come here," Maya called, her voice carrying a mixture of excitement and confusion. "Bring the ground scanner." The sisters had spent their life savings on the most advanced archaeological equipment they could afford. The ground-penetrating radar unit was their most expensive tool, capable of seeing deep underground structures. Ava dragged the heavy device across the sand, leaving tracks behind her. They set up the scanner and began a systematic sweep of the area. The first pass showed something massive buried beneath the sand. The second pass made both sisters sit down in shock. The underground structure was enormous, stretching over 300 meters in length and nearly 60 meters wide. "This has to be a mistake," Ava whispered, staring at the scanner's display. "Nothing that big could be buried here without someone knowing about it." Maya ran the scan 3 more times, each with the same result. Deep beneath the sand lay something that looked like a huge ship. The scanner showed the object was buried about 12 meters down, completely intact, and made of materials that reflected the radar waves in ways neither sister had ever seen. They worked through the night, taking detailed measurements and creating a map of the buried object. By morning, they were certain of 2 things. First, whatever lay beneath the sand was not from any known ancient civilization. Second, they were probably the only people on Earth who knew it existed. Over the next 2 weeks, the sisters worked carefully to excavate a small section of the object. They chose a spot that appeared to be near what might be an entrance, based on the scanner readings. Maya insisted they work slowly and document everything, knowing that one mistake could damage whatever they had found. The first piece of metal they uncovered was unlike anything they had seen before. It was completely smooth, showing no signs of rust or wear despite being buried for what appeared to be thousands of years. The metal had a slight blue tint and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "This material shouldn't exist," Maya said, running her gloved hand across the surface. "After all this time underground, it should be corroded, damaged, something, but it looks like it was made yesterday." Ava took photographs and samples while Maya continued excavating. As they worked deeper, the shape of the object became clearer. They were uncovering what appeared to be a doorway, with smooth edges and strange symbols carved into the metal around its frame. The symbols were unlike any writing system either sister had studied. They seemed to shift and change depending on the angle of view, creating patterns that hurt to look at for too long. Maya sketched them carefully, noting how they seemed to form connected sequences rather than individual letters or words. After 3 weeks of careful digging, they had exposed what was clearly an entrance to the buried vessel. The door itself was seamless, with no visible handles or mechanisms. However, when Maya placed her hand on a specific symbol, the entire door began to glow with a soft blue light. "Step back," Ava said nervously, but Maya was already moving away from the door. With a sound like escaping air, the door split down the middle and slid open. Cool air flowed out of the opening, carrying with it a scent that neither sister could identify. It was clean and metallic, but also somehow organic, like the smell of rain on stone. Maya grabbed a flashlight and pointed it into the opening. The beam revealed a corridor that extended beyond the reach of the light. The walls were covered with the same strange metal as the exterior, and they seemed to pulse with a very faint inner light. "The air is breathable," Ava said, reading from a small device she held. "Oxygen levels are actually higher than normal atmosphere. Temperature is a comfortable 22 degrees. Whatever this thing is, it's still maintaining life support after all this time underground." Maya looked at her sister and saw her own excitement and fear reflected in Ava's eyes. They stood at the threshold of something that would change everything. They thought they knew about human history, about Earth itself, and about humanity's place in the universe. "We need to call someone," Ava said quietly. "The university, the government, someone who can handle this properly." "Not yet," Maya replied, surprising herself with her answer. "We need to understand what this is first. If we call in officials now, we'll lose control of the discovery. They'll classify it, hide it, or worse. We need to learn what we can while we still have the chance." The sisters gathered their equipment and prepared to enter the vessel. As they stepped across the threshold, lights began to activate along the corridor walls, as if the ship was welcoming them home after a very long absence. The door remained open behind them, but both sisters felt as though they were crossing a line from which there would be no return. The corridor stretched ahead of them, filled with the promise of answers to questions they had never thought to ask, and the certainty that their lives would never be the same again. The lights inside the buried vessel flickered to life as Maya and Ava walked deeper into the corridor. Each step they took triggered more illumination ahead, as if the ship was anticipating their movement. The walls around them were not just metal, but something that looked almost alive, with patterns that seemed to flow and shift when they weren't looking directly at them. Ava stopped suddenly and grabbed Maya's arm. "Look at this," she whispered, pointing to symbols that had appeared on the wall beside them. The strange writing was glowing softly, and as they watched, new symbols appeared below the first set. "It's responding to us," Maya said, her voice filled with wonder. "The ship knows we're here." They continued walking until the corridor opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling stretched high above them, supported by graceful arches that seemed to grow from the floor like frozen trees. In the center of the room stood several tall structures that looked like control panels, each one surrounded by what appeared to be crystalline formations. Maya approached one of the control panels carefully. The surface was smooth and dark, but as her hand came near it, symbols began to appear. The writing was the same as what they had seen on the door and walls, but now the symbols were moving, creating patterns that almost looked like they were trying to communicate. "I think it's a computer," Ava said, walking around another panel. "But I've never seen anything like this technology. These crystals, they're not just decorative, they're part of the system somehow." Maya touched the surface of the panel, and immediately the entire room came alive. Holographic displays appeared in the air around them, showing star charts, mathematical equations, and images of worlds they had never seen. One display showed Earth, but it looked different somehow, younger, with different coastlines and ice formations. "This is Earth from thousands of years ago," Maya breathed, staring at the holographic planet. But who could have known what Earth looked like then? Who could have been here to record it? The displays changed, showing other worlds, orbiting distant stars. Some worlds were covered in water, others were desert planets with red skies, and some were so alien that the sisters couldn't understand what they were looking at. Each world was marked with symbols, some in one color, others in different colors. "It's a map," Ava said, her archaeological training helping her recognize patterns. "These symbols are markers. Different colors mean different things. Earth has a unique symbol, different from all the others." Maya studied the star charts more carefully. Earth was indeed marked differently from every other world in the database. While other planets had symbols that seemed to indicate resources or strategic value, Earth's symbol was more complex, almost artistic. It suggested something precious, something worth protecting. They spent hours exploring the chamber, which they realized was the ship's bridge. The control stations were designed for beings much taller than humans, but not impossibly so. Everything suggested a species that was humanoid but larger, probably around 8 feet tall based on the height of the panels and seats. In one corner of the bridge, Maya found what appeared to be a library or data storage system. When she approached it, the crystalline structures began to glow and new displays appeared. These showed not star charts, but detailed information about Earth itself. The data was incredibly detailed. It included genetic information about early human populations, studies of human behavior and development, and what appeared to be long-term observations of human civilization. The timestamp on the data made Maya's heart race. According to the ship's records, these observations had been made exactly 4,179 years ago. "Ava, look at this," Maya called her sister over. "They were studying us. Whoever built this ship, they were here thousands of years ago watching humanity develop." The data showed human settlements, early agriculture, the development of writing systems, and the growth of the first cities. But it also showed something else. The alien observers had been taking genetic samples, studying human biology in detail, and making predictions about human development. "They were anthropologists," Ava said with sudden understanding. "Just like us? They were studying a developing civilization, documenting everything, trying to understand how humans would evolve." Maya accessed more files and found personal logs from the ship's crew. The translation was difficult, but the ship's computer seemed to be helping them understand the language. The logs revealed that the crew had been part of a larger scientific expedition, sent to study promising young species across the galaxy. The early logs were full of excitement and wonder. The crew had been fascinated by humanity's rapid development, their creativity, and their ability to adapt to different environments. They had observed human art, music, and early science with the enthusiasm of researchers discovering something truly special. But the logs also revealed something troubling. The crew had been part of a larger galactic civilization, a peaceful confederation of species that valued knowledge and growth. However, they were not alone in the galaxy. Other, less friendly civilizations also existed, and some of them did not view developing species with the same protective interest. Maya found detailed files about human biology that showed the crew had been amazed by human adaptability. Compared to most species they had encountered, humans were unusually flexible in their thinking, capable of rapid social and technological evolution, and possessed of an unusual combination of individual creativity and group cooperation. "They saw something in us," Maya said, reading through the biological assessments, "something that made us different from other species they had studied." Ava discovered another section of the database that contained cultural studies. The crew had been fascinated by human art, stories, and music. They had recorded examples of early human creativity and made extensive notes about humanity's unique ability to create meaning through symbols and narrative. The final files in this section were the most interesting. The crew had made predictions about human development, projecting how the species might evolve over thousands of years. Their predictions were remarkably accurate in some areas, but in others, they had underestimated human potential. They thought we would develop faster technologically, but slower socially, Ava noted, reading through the projections. They didn't predict that humans would develop global communication so quickly, or that we would begin to see ourselves as a single species rather than separate tribes. As the sisters continued to explore the ship's database, they began to understand that they had discovered something far more significant than just an ancient artifact. They had found evidence of humanity's first contact with an alien civilization, contact that had occurred thousands of years before humans had any concept of life beyond Earth. But as they delved deeper into the ship's records, they began to find references to something called the Cleansing Fleet and urgent discussions about whether humanity would be ready for what was coming. The tone of the later files was very different from the early scientific enthusiasm, filled with concern and growing urgency about threats the sisters did not yet understand. Deep in the ship's memory banks, Maya discovered a section labeled with symbols that the computer translated as critical records. The files here were different from the scientific observations they had been reading. These logs carried a sense of urgency and fear that made both sisters uncomfortable as they began to understand their contents. The first critical log was dated 3 months before the ship's final entries. Commander Talneth, the expedition leader, had received a message from the Confederation Council. Maya read the translated text aloud to her sister, her voice growing quieter with each word. Emergency protocols now in effect. The Dominion has begun systematic elimination of developing worlds in Sector 7. All observation teams are ordered to implement protective measures immediately. Young species are to be considered at maximum risk. Ava looked up from her own screen where she had been studying star charts. What's the Dominion? Maya accessed related files and found detailed intelligence reports about a militaristic empire that had been expanding across their region of the galaxy for centuries. Unlike the peaceful Confederation that valued and protected developing civilizations, the Dominion viewed young species as either potential slaves or future threats to be eliminated before they could become dangerous. The reports were chilling in their clinical detail. The Dominion standard procedure was to arrive at worlds with developing civilizations and offer a simple choice: complete submission and slavery or complete destruction. According to the records, no species had ever chosen slavery after seeing what that meant. Most chose to fight and were destroyed. A few chose to hide. They were coming here, Maya said, her hands shaking as she read through tactical assessments. The Dominion had identified Earth as a target. They were planning to arrive within the next 50 years of when these logs were written. The Confederation's response had been to hide their observation teams and delete all records that might lead the Dominion to Earth. But Commander Talneth and his crew had gone further than their orders required. They had made a decision that would cost them everything, but might save humanity. The logs detailed heated debates among the crew about what to do with their advanced technology. They had weapons capable of destroying planets, medical technology that could extend life for millennia, and computational systems that could solve problems beyond human imagination. If this technology fell into Dominion hands, it would make them nearly unstoppable. If it fell into human hands before humans were ready, it might destroy human civilization from within. Commander Talneth's personal logs revealed the depth of his dilemma. He had grown to admire humanity during the years of observation. The crew had watched humans create art, music, and stories that moved them in ways they hadn't expected. They had seen human compassion, sacrifice, and love, but they had also seen human capacity for violence and destruction. The young species shows remarkable promise, one log entry read. Their creativity exceeds that of most mature civilizations, and their adaptability is unprecedented in our records. However, their tendency toward tribal violence and resource competition remains strong. They are perhaps 50 generations away from being ready for galactic citizenship, but the Dominion was not 50 generations away. According to the intelligence reports, their scout fleets were already moving toward Earth's sector of the galaxy. Maya found the crew's final decision in a log dated just days before the ship's last entry. They had chosen to bury their vessel and enter stasis chambers, hiding until either the Dominion threat passed or humanity developed to the point where they could handle the truth about the galaxy around them. "We will sleep until the young species is ready," the final official log stated. "Our technology will remain hidden until they have proven themselves capable of using it wisely. If the Dominion finds this world first, our sacrifice will mean nothing. But if humanity survives and grows, they may become the galaxy's greatest hope for peace." However, as Maya dug deeper into the personal logs, she discovered that the crew's plan had changed in the final days. Scout reports had arrived showing that Dominion advance forces were closer than expected. There was a real possibility that their hidden ship might be discovered, even buried beneath the desert sand. The crew's bioscientist, Dr. Lynn Ara, had made a disturbing discovery in her final analysis of human genetics. Humans possessed something that no other species in the galaxy had, an unusual genetic marker that appeared to be artificial, as if someone had modified human DNA in the distant past. The young species carries genetic modifications that suggest intervention by an unknown advanced civilization, Dr. Linara's report concluded. These modifications appear designed to enhance adaptability, intelligence growth potential, and resistance to psychological manipulation. Someone wanted this species to survive and thrive. This discovery had changed everything for the crew. They were not just protecting another developing civilization. They were protecting a species that some unknown benefactor had already invested in. A species that might have been designed to survive exactly the kind of galactic threats that the Dominion represented. Ava found the final set of personal logs, written by individual crew members in their last days. Each one expressed the same sentiment. Humanity was too important to lose. The galaxy was becoming darker, with more aggressive civilizations expanding and fewer peaceful ones surviving. The Confederation itself was losing ground in a war that had been going on for thousands of years. "The young species possesses something we have lost," wrote Navigation Officer Perdan. "They still believe that individuals can make a difference, that small groups can change the course of history. They fight for each other in ways that mature civilizations have forgotten how to do. If they survive long enough to reach the stars, they might remind the galaxy what it means to hope." The final entries revealed the crew's ultimate decision. Rather than risk their technology being captured, they had chosen to die. But their death would not be in vain. They had programmed their ship's computer to serve as a teacher and guide for humanity when the species eventually found the vessel. The ship contained not just warnings about galactic threats, but detailed instructions for technologies that could help humanity defend itself. More importantly, it contained star charts showing the locations of other hidden Confederation outposts scattered across the galaxy, each one waiting for humanity to prove it was ready for contact. "We leave this message for the young species. Of the third planet," Commander Talneth's final log began. "You have been chosen not by us, but by the universe itself. You carry within your genetics the modifications of an ancient benefactor, and within your culture the adaptability that dead civilizations would envy. The galaxy needs you to survive, to grow, and to remember what it means to protect rather than conquer." Maya and Ava sat in silence after reading the final logs. Around them, the ship's systems hummed quietly, maintaining perfect environmental conditions after more than 4,000 years. The crew was gone, but their gift to humanity remained, waiting for the moment when Earth's children would be ready to inherit the stars. The ship's corridors seemed endless as Maya and Ava searched for the crew quarters. After reading the logs about the crew's decision to enter stasis, both sisters felt compelled to find where the alien scientists had chosen to spend their final years. The ship's navigation system guided them through passages that seemed to reshape themselves as they walked, always providing the most direct route to their destination. They found the crew quarters in a section of the ship that felt different from the clinical precision of the bridge and laboratories. Here, the walls held personal touches that spoke of individuals rather than just scientists. Carved symbols that might have been names or personal mottos decorated doorways. Small alcoves held objects that could only be personal treasures. Crystalline formations that caught and held light in beautiful patterns, metallic sculptures that seemed to move when viewed from different angles, and data tablets containing what appeared to be personal writings or poetry. The first quarters they entered had belonged to Dr. Linara, the bioscientist whose reports they had been reading. Her living space was filled with holographic displays showing the development of life on hundreds of different worlds. But the most prominent display showed Earth, with detailed models of human evolution from early primates to modern humans. She really cared about us, Ava said softly, studying the detailed biological models. Look at all this research. She must have spent years trying to understand everything about human development. Maya found Dr. Lynn Ara's personal logs stored in a device beside what appeared to be a sleeping alcove. These logs were different from the official scientific reports. They revealed a scientist who had become emotionally invested in the species she was studying. The young humans continue to surprise me, one entry read. Today I observed a small group risk their lives to save members of a rival tribe during a flood. This behavior makes no genetic sense from a survival standpoint, yet it appears to be becoming more common as their societies develop. They are evolving beyond the basic survival instincts that drive most young species. Another entry, dated much later, showed Dr. Linara's growing concern about humanity's future. The genetic modifications are becoming more active as the species develops. Whatever ancient civilization altered their DNA, they designed these changes to activate during times of greatest stress. The humans are being prepared for something, but I cannot determine what. The sisters moved on to other crew quarters, each one revealing more about the individuals who had sacrificed their lives for humanity's future. Commander Talneth's quarters were sparse but organized, filled with tactical displays and communication. Logs from other Confederation outposts across the galaxy. His personal logs revealed a military mind grappling with an impossible decision. Every instinct tells me to take the young species under our protection immediately, one of his entries read. They face threats they cannot imagine, and we have the power to shield them. But protection without strength leads only to dependency. If they are to survive what is coming, they must develop their own power, their own unity, their own determination to protect not just themselves, but others. Navigation Officer Perdan's quarters told a different story. His walls were covered with artistic representations of human creativity. Early cave paintings, architectural plans, musical notations, and poetry transcribed in both human languages. And his own species writing system. His logs revealed someone who had fallen in love with human culture. They create beauty in the face of suffering, one entry marveled. Other species create art to celebrate victory or abundance. The humans create their most moving works during their darkest periods. They transform pain into hope, loss into meaning. This is not behavior we have observed in any other developing species. But it was in the final set of quarters that Maya and Ava discovered the truth about what had happened to the crew. Engineer Morvek's living space contained detailed technical schematics and what appeared to be a countdown timer that had reached 0 thousands of years ago. His personal logs revealed the crew's final plan. The approach of Dominion scout ships had forced them to abandon their original strategy of entering stasis. The risk of discovery was too great, and the consequences of their technology falling into Dominion hands would doom not just humanity, but potentially hundreds of other developing species. "We have made our choice," Morvek's final entry read. "The ship's reactor will be reconfigured to create a controlled implosion that will destroy all weapon systems and most of our advanced technology. Only the educational databases and communication systems will survive. We will not live to see if the young species proves worthy of our sacrifice, but we die knowing that we have given them the best chance possible." Maya felt tears on her cheeks as she realized what the crew had done. They had not died peacefully in stasis chambers. They had deliberately destroyed themselves and their technology to prevent it from being captured, leaving only enough advanced systems to help humanity. When they were ready, the sisters found the ship's medical bay, where the final act of the crew's sacrifice became clear. The stasis chambers were empty, but the medical records showed that each crew member had undergone a voluntary procedure that had transferred their knowledge and memories into the ship's computer system before ending their lives. "They're still here," Ava whispered, understanding the implications. "Not alive, but their knowledge, their personalities, their memories are all stored in the ship's systems. They became part of the ship itself." Maya accessed the medical bay's central computer and found a message waiting for them, a message that could only be activated by human genetic markers. The holographic display shimmered to life, and suddenly they were face to face with Commander Talnith himself, or at least a perfect recording of him made at the moment of his death. "If you are seeing this message, then humanity has survived long enough to find our gift," the holographic commander said. "We hope that you have also grown wise enough to use it properly. We are gone, but our knowledge remains to serve you. We have left you the tools to protect not just your own world, but many others." The commander's image gestured to displays that appeared around the medical bay. "The galaxy is vast and often cruel. Species that might have been your friends have been enslaved or destroyed. Civilizations that took millions of years to develop have been wiped out in single days. The Dominion grows stronger while the forces of peace grow fewer." Maya and Ava listened as the commander explained the ship's remaining systems. The educational databases contained the accumulated knowledge of dozens of peaceful civilizations. The communication array could reach the hidden outposts of other species who had survived by hiding from the Dominion. Most importantly, the ship contained the genetic records and cultural databases of species that had been destroyed, preserved in the hope that someday they might be remembered or even restored. "You will face a choice," the commander continued. "You can use our knowledge to protect only your own world, or you can use it to become what the galaxy needs: protectors of peace, defenders of the developing, guardians of hope. We have seen in your species the potential to be what we could not become. The question is whether you will choose to fulfill that potential." The holographic message ended, but the ship's systems remained active, waiting for the sisters to make the first choice that would determine humanity's path among the stars. Maya and Ava stood in the empty medical bay, surrounded by the preserved knowledge of a dead crew and the sleeping technologies that could change everything, knowing that they held the future of their entire species in their hands. 6 months had passed since Maya and Ava first entered the buried ship. They had spent countless hours learning from the alien databases, translating technologies that could revolutionize human civilization, and grappling with the weight of the decision that lay before them. The ship had become their second home, its corridors as familiar as their own apartments back in Cairo. The ship's AI, which had slowly revealed more of its capabilities as the sisters proved their understanding, had become almost like a friend. It spoke with the combined wisdom of the entire crew. Their personalities blended into a single entity, that was both alien and strangely human in its compassion. "You have learned much," the AI said during one of their regular conversations. "Your species' capacity for rapid adaptation continues to exceed our original projections, but learning and implementing are different challenges entirely." Maya sat in what had once been Commander Talneth's chair on the bridge, studying charts that showed the current positions of known Dominion fleets. The alien empire had continued to expand during the thousands of years since the crew's sacrifice. Dozens of worlds had fallen, their civilizations either enslaved or completely destroyed. "How many species are still in hiding?" she asked the AI. 17 peaceful civilizations remain in concealed locations similar to this one," the AI replied. "Each has been waiting for a sign that it is safe to emerge, that someone has finally grown strong enough to challenge the Dominion's expansion." Ava was working at another station, studying the genetic modifications that the crew had discovered in human DNA. After months of analysis, she had made discoveries that even the alien scientists had not fully understood. "Maya, you need to see this," she called out. "I've been comparing human genetic patterns with the databases from other species. The modifications aren't just about adaptability and intelligence. They're about something much more specific." Maya joined her sister at the genetic analysis station. The displays showed complex DNA structures that seemed to pulse with their own internal logic. "The modifications are designed to activate during periods of extreme stress or conflict," Ava explained. "But not just any stress. They respond specifically to situations where humans must choose between self-preservation and protecting others. When humans act selflessly to defend weaker beings, these genetic changes become more active." The AI processed this information with what seemed like surprise. "This suggests that whoever modified your species intended you to become protectors, rather than conquerors. The genetic programming rewards self-sacrifice for the greater good." Maya felt a chill as she understood the implications. "We were designed to be the opposite of the Dominion. Where they conquer and destroy, we're programmed to protect and preserve." The sisters had reached the moment they had been avoiding for months. The ship's communication array was ready to broadcast humanity's first message to the hidden civilizations of the galaxy. But activating it would also signal Earth's location to anyone else who might be listening, including the Dominion. The AI had explained the risks clearly. Broadcasting would let the surviving peaceful species know that humanity had found the ship and was ready for contact, but it would also alert the Dominion that Earth existed and was developing advanced technology. The message would essentially be a declaration that humanity was ready to join the galactic community for better or worse. "There is another consideration," the AI added. "The communication array is designed to do more than just send a message. It will upload portions of our database to each hidden outpost, sharing our accumulated knowledge with all surviving peaceful species. This knowledge includes everything we learned about defeating Dominion technology." Maya and Ava had spent weeks debating what to do. They could keep the ship secret, slowly introducing its technologies to humanity over decades or centuries, allowing human civilization to develop gradually and safely. Or they could activate the beacon, trusting that humanity was ready to face whatever challenges came from joining the galactic community. "What would your crew have done?" Maya asked the AI. "Commander Talneth believed that courage delayed was courage lost," the AI replied. "He would have said that hiding from danger only allows danger to grow stronger. But Dr. Lin Ara would have urged caution, wanting to ensure that humanity was fully prepared before facing galactic threats." The decision ultimately came down to a simple question that the sisters asked themselves as they stood before the communication console. What kind of species did they want humanity to become? "If we wait, how many other species will die while we prepare?" Ava asked quietly. How many worlds will the Dominion destroy while we study their weaknesses from safety? Maya thought about the genetic modifications that rewarded self-sacrifice for the protection of others. We were designed to be protectors. Maybe the question isn't whether we're ready, but whether others need our help now. They activated the beacon together, their hands touching the crystalline control surface simultaneously. The ship's systems came alive with energy as the communication array began broadcasting humanity's first intentional message to the stars. The message was simple, but profound. This is Earth. We have found the gift left by the Confederation. We understand the risks and accept the responsibility. We are ready to stand with all peaceful species against those who would destroy or enslave. We are here, and we will not hide. As the message propagated across space at faster-than-light speeds, the ship's displays began showing responses from the hidden outposts. One by one, 17 civilizations that had been silent for millennia began to answer. Their messages carried hope, relief, and welcome for the species that had finally chosen to step out of the shadows. But the displays also showed something else. Dominion monitoring stations had detected the broadcast and were beginning to redirect fleets toward Earth's location. The peaceful time of preparation was over. Humanity would face its first galactic war within months, not centuries. Maya and Ava looked at each other and saw no regret in either face. They had made the choice that felt right. The choice that honored both the alien crew's sacrifice and humanity's potential. Around them, the ship's systems began activating technologies that had been dormant for thousands of years, preparing to transform from a hidden archive into an active weapon against tyranny. The final display showed Earth from space, beautiful and vulnerable, but no longer alone. Across the galaxy, 17 species were emerging from hiding, sharing knowledge and coordinating plans. The Dominion would face not just a single developing world, but a coalition of civilizations united by the simple belief that peace was worth fighting for. The galaxy would learn what the buried ship's crew had died believing, that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their adaptability, but their willingness to sacrifice for others. The species that had been designed to protect would finally have the chance to fulfill their purpose among the stars. In the depths of space, ancient enemies began to move toward Earth, confident that another young species would fall before their might. They could not have known that this time they would face something entirely new. A species that had been waiting 4,000 years to prove that the galaxy's greatest defenders had not died in vain. The sisters stood together on the bridge of humanity's first starship, watching as similar vessels began to emerge from hidden locations on 17 different worlds. Each ship carried the accumulated wisdom of peaceful civilizations and the desperate hope of species that had survived by hiding. But more importantly, each ship carried crews who had finally found something worth fighting for, the chance to ensure that no other species would face the choice between slavery and extinction. Maya touched the communication console one final time, sending a message that would be remembered throughout galactic history. To all who hear this transmission, know that the age of hiding is over. The protectors have awakened, and the galaxy will remember what peace looks like. The beacon continued to pulse, carrying humanity's promise across the stars, while somewhere in the vast darkness between worlds, ancient enemies prepared to learn why some species are born to conquer, while others are born to ensure that conquest itself becomes extinct. The war for the galaxy's future was about to begin, and for the first time in millennia, the forces of peace would not face it alone.